welcome. If you are here for the Aquinas Open House with Schole Academy, you're in the right place. And you are currently looking at some of your Aquinas House instructors, and I'm going to be introducing each of them tonight, and you're going to hear from them in terms of what they're teaching. My name is Joanne Shinstock, and I'm the director and principal of Schole Academy, so I'm really excited to get to visit with you tonight. Tonight's event is recorded, so if you have to leave early or if you have friends that you know aren't able to come tonight, it is being recorded and we will share it. Just a couple housekeeping bits of information. You have a Q&A, and then there's also a chat box. During the panel presentations, you can put any questions that you want in the Q&A, and then we will get to them during the Q&A, which will be towards the end of the evening, last 15-20 minutes. You can also put anything in the chat box. What we like to do when we first start these events is just to hear from everyone. So if you want to, some of us have already started typing in where you're joining us from, and that's great. So we thank you. And if you're brand new to Schole Academy, that's helpful to know as well. If you're a current family of Schole Academy, but you're checking out Aquinas House, welcome. We are also very excited to have you. A couple pieces of general information, and Christy, if you would go ahead and make sure that these emails and web links get put into the chat box. But if there's any questions that we don't get to tonight, go ahead and email support@scholeacademy.com. That's our general email. You'll see that also on our website, support@scholeacademy.com. And just before tonight's event, I got some information about our website being down, parts of it being down. And one of the parts that is affected tonight is the Aquinas House of Studies website. So right now you can go to our landing page and you can see the titles of our courses, but at least as of minutes before we started, if you click on any of those courses, the details are not available. So we are aware that the website is not working properly, and we are going to obviously fix that as soon as possible. But good news, tonight you can hear directly from the teachers who are teaching those courses. So they'll fill you in on all the details, and then you can continue to check back on the website. So to get started, I did want to share a little bit about our community. We are continuing to grow each year since 2014 when we started. We currently have over 100 teachers and tutors. We started in 2014 with 2 classes and 8 students, and we serve hundreds of families, thousands of enrollments now. So in just a few short years, we've really developed out our offerings. We have classes that follow the classical Christian tradition. So that means we have classes that study the great books. We offer courses in the trivium and the quadrivium. We also offer courses in the fine arts and the common arts. And a part of our Schole Academy mission is this ecumenical mission, which we think is unique. And so you'll find on our website that we have 3 houses of studies. The house that we're going to be talking about tonight, the Aquinas House, obviously serves the Catholic families or families and students that are interested in the Catholic faith, but might not yet be baptized or confirmed specifically into the Catholic tradition. So before I kind of dive deeper into Aquinas, this is a overview of our virtual campus. So the Great Hall is where you find the majority of our classes in the trivium, quadrivium, and fine arts, grades K to 12. And then you can move off of the Great Hall into one of our houses of studies. St. Raphael School is in the Orthodox tradition, Aquinas in the Catholic tradition, Canterbury is in the Anglican tradition. And this page here, you'll see on our website, Houses of Studies, Great Hall House, goes into the history. And we take this from C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. And he speaks about the Great Hall as the place where all of us come in and we share the common traditions and values and beliefs, but then we are encouraged to leave that Great Hall and move into our specific houses. our specific Christian traditions. So all the teachers in the Aquinas House of Studies are Catholic. And so when families are purchasing classes there, you all can expect that your children will be taught the discipline or the content area through the lens of the Catholic faith by Catholics in good standing with their church and their community and their diocese. And then, like I said, the houses are open to all families. So for the Aquinas House, students and families do not have to be Catholic to enroll and participate in our courses. And our courses are for middle school, upper school, and we even have an adult workshop. And this is our 23-24 will be our second year. So you'll hear about what courses we have planned. And then also we'll talk about areas that we hope to grow in as well. So you're joining us tonight to learn really about our second year. So we recognize that there's a lot for us to continue to offer and grow. And we're just very excited that we can support parents in the education of their children specific to the Catholic tradition. So if there are any other questions about School A Academy at large, you can email support@schoolacademy.com. In addition to the ecumenical mission with our 3 houses, we also offer services through our tutoring center and our Center for Students with Learning Differences. So all of these pieces are available online, but I want to shift gears and pass it to our panelists tonight. I'm going to share my screen here because we have a great group tonight. And as they start to introduce themselves, I want to also kind of give you a visual of who you're talking to tonight. So let me get this set up for you. All right, so hopefully everyone can see the screen here. Just starting with the top of our list, I'm going to pass it to Monica Meinhardt. And Monica, if you'd like to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also jump into what you'll be teaching this year.
Yes, thank you, Joanne. So yeah, I've been working in Catholic religious education for quite some time, really since as soon as I kind of reconverted to the faith in college, I guess you could say. I jumped right into serving on lead teams for Catholic college ministry and youth ministry, and then from there decided I wanted to minor in early Christian studies. And then that led to wanting to get my Master's of Arts in Divinity with a focus in biblical studies. I did not study at Catholic universities intentionally because I wanted to have an ecumenical perspective. So you can kind of see why School A Academy, the big house, really appealed to me when I was starting to look for opportunities for my own kids. And I discovered Classical Academic Press, used a lot of their Greek and Latin programs for my children. And then as time went on and heard about a Catholic house opening, I was leaving a job working in a Catholic church because we are a military family and we move around a lot. And so it just made a lot of sense to join a team whom I definitely agree with the mission 100%. Both for School A and the Aquinas House, and it can move with me as we move. We're moving again this summer, so it's great. I don't have to leave my job. I can keep going and have some continuity with bringing the Catholic faith to families everywhere. Specifically, the classes that I am teaching and will be teaching will have a focus in Catholic theology and literature. And as you can see Joanne scrolling here, I guess I'll kind of introduce the idea that Tisha and I have gone in on together for theology of the body. We sensed a really big need for, and a lot of requests from parents for theology of the body classes. I think we can all agree that this is something that's in great need and, for the whole world, but especially for our young people. And we really have found a few awesome programs that we'd like to bring to families through the Aquinas House. And so Tisha, she can share more about hers, but she's going to be doing the middle school Theology of the Body course with a curriculum from Ruo Woods. And then I'm going to be picking up the high school, upper school 9th through 12th Theology of the Body course with the continuation of that same curriculum through Ruo Woods. So we're hoping to have some nice continuity from students throughout the years, and are happy to add on courses as it grows, maybe break it apart even more to more distinct sections than just middle school and high school, but we'll see how it goes. And then I will also be teaching a Understanding the Catholic Mass, which is a theology class as well. One thing that shifted for me personally from this past year of teaching a class 2 times a week for a semester was next year I'm going to be teaching 1 time a week each class. So the upper school Theology of the Body and the Understanding the Catholic Mass are both 1 time a week for the whole year. And so the idea with that is that this is kind of in a way imitating the same way that we do CCD, PSR, whatever you may call it in your diocese programs, a once a week theology class that can grow, you can grow in community with the people in your class throughout the whole year, but something that's not going to overwhelm you in the midst of all of your other studies. So bringing that restful learning that Scholae produces, I guess I could say, bringing that to these theology classes. That was the number one question I received from different parents was, well, how much reading is there going to be? Is this going to be, how much homework are they going to have? So there will be homework, there will be some reading for sure, but spaced out throughout the year and, understanding that your children have many other classes to take. We keep that in mind, I think, for at least for my classes, hoping that they can have a really fruitful experience each week in that actual hour 15 minutes in class, and then carry that with them throughout the week. And the homework is kind of just them living their life, especially the Understanding the Catholic Mass. Part of the homework is go to Mass and pay attention. And then we'll talk about it on Monday, the next day, or do the Mass readings ahead of time. That's going to be part of the homework. So it's not something to overwhelm you, but really hopefully things that you can start to do as a young person and continue for a lifetime, hopefully. So one more thing I would like to mention is to share from my class this semester. So this semester we've been doing a Catholic theology and literature class on Saint Therese, and I have just been blown away by the feedback and the discussion from all of my students. It's just really been wonderful. They've given me so much to think about in our class. And I wanted to share with you, if I could, just a small sample of one of the discussions that we have. If you've read Saint Therese's Story of a Soul, it's just filled with too many analogies about the spiritual life. And she makes it really easy to discuss our relationship with Jesus, with thinking about heaven, thinking about challenges and struggles. And so one such analogy that she gave, let me share this here, was comparing herself to a weak little bird. And she calls herself a weak little bird, and she refers to the eagles in heaven as saints, the vultures around her as all the things tearing her away from God, and then the adored eternal eagle as Jesus, God, Holy Spirit. And so in class, we actually worked through this. And when we started class that day, that we talked about this section, all of the fill in the blanks here next to the colons were blank. And we talked about what are the vultures. And you can see based on this list here of the different vultures, we had a lot of great discussion about what these things were in our lives that were kind of separating us from God, or things that could be a distraction. And it was just a beautiful conversation. And then the homework assignment, which we gave about a week to complete, was to draw a picture depicting this. And you could kind of use your imagination and draw and see where that takes you. And I'll often get questions, about the parameters of these spiritual drawing assignments. And I really try to say, there are some, but there's not that many. I really want you to just go where, the Spirit moves you to go. So I thought I'd just, without going to too much explanation, to share a couple of these. A little blurry there. So here's one. All of these students in School A that I've experienced are all so incredibly talented and have such insight. So there's one. And so we would sit and we would analyze and talk about the why as the vulture, staring this way, the eagle has its wings spread open wide, the simplicity that they thought about while they were drawing themselves as the bird. And then here's another. This one, the student mentioned how this is a bird here falling from her nest, as an example of us falling into sin, facing struggles, and then falling right onto the eagle's wings, right? So beautiful. And the vulture facing away, right? This is the devil as in her mind, and facing away, couldn't, even look at the eagle, the beloved one, due to his fallen nature. So just wanted to share that as a conclusion. This is just a small sample of the wisdom that we've enjoyed this semester, and I'm really looking forward to next year. Oh, one last thing is this summer, and maybe Tisha can, well, she started me off. I have to thank her to thank for this. So last summer, she did a summer class through the Endow series, which is a series for women and young women alike, all these very beautiful Bible studies. They have a huge assortment of Bible studies. And she started one last summer, which is under the title Girl Genius. And I forget the title of that, the first series. There was a subtitle to that one. But anyhow, the second in the series is called Forming Friendships. And that is a summer class that I will be hosting this summer for middle school girls. And it's an 8 session, about 4-week series over the summer, starts in the middle of July. And I'm really looking forward to some great discussion. And this is a summer class, so it's really the bulk of all of the material is in class. So not a lot of homework or anything like that, like a book club style meeting. And we do hope, this is one other question that we've received a lot, which is, are there going to be options like this for young men? We are hoping to offer that at some point. I would love to offer that. My oldest is almost 12-year-old boy, and he's very jealous that his sister gets to do these things and he doesn't. So we're working on it, and we hope to offer that in the future. So that is all I have. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Monica. I know, Tisha, you and Monica have collaborated a lot, so I'm going to pass it to you next to talk about your course offerings, and then we'll move on to what we have for art and music, which I'm really excited about this year. Go ahead, Tisha.
Sure, thanks. It was Defining Dignity, I think was the first one, Girl Genius. So yes, I am not able to teach anything this summer because I'm about to have a baby. So I live in northern Minnesota with my husband and 6 kids, soon to be 7. We live in the Diocese of Duluth, and I love hearing everybody's stories about how they come to School A. Mine was life just looked totally different after COVID and a few family events and happenings. And my youngest has special needs. And so my traditional work life, not that it's been really traditional, I've always worked in Catholic education in some format, but while raising 6 children. So it looks differently in different seasons. So I've been a youth minister and DRE and worked for Catholic schools as an interim principal one year. It just looks different. The Catholic Church always has needs. And so sometimes I've filled those gaps and sometimes I've been at home. But more recently, it was just really clear that I needed something to work from home and be available to my daughter. So I had known about Classical Academic Press and then found out about School A Academy. So yeah, it's been a huge blessing in my life. So I'm just finishing my first year, started tutoring last spring, taught a few classes this summer, and then taught 3 classes this past year, 1 for Aquinas House, and then 2 for the Great Hall. And so next year I'm doing 3, all for Aquinas House, because I have just loved that. I really love the shared faith experience and being able to talk about that and go deeper with the students. So next year I'm going to be teaching 2 history courses. I pulled out some of the books. So I'll be teaching Medieval World again. And we're using Story of Civilization. by Philip Campbell. And I love this book. I'm so glad I found this book because it combines world history with church history. And so each chapter, covers an important medieval event, but then he always weaves in like a story of a saint or what's going on with the church. And so it's just very natural to see the combination rather than, learning your world history over here and your church history over here. It just combines. And then it lends itself really well to bringing in other humanities. Like we've been doing a lot of sacred art, looking at sacred art, and then students are also able to choose a couple pieces of literature throughout the year, and that's on the syllabus. They can choose different books. So for example, this quarter they can choose Door on the Wall, which is kind of a classic about the Black Death, or they were all intrigued with the murder of Thomas Becket. So that's one of the books that they can read. And I'm really trying to find literature that has Catholic themes in it so that they can, maybe books that they wouldn't necessarily find at the library or on their own. Sometimes you have to dive a little bit deeper. So that's from Bethlehem Books. Or they can read the story of St. Thomas More this quarter, because we're kind of ending the Middle Ages, starting the Reformation and Counter-Reformation. So I have loved the combination of all the different topics and bringing together all the humanities in that course. So with that, I'm also going to offer the next level, which is Modern World, which goes like, it starts with the Reformation, Counter-Reformation up to 20th century. And so that will be both the history classes that I'll offer for middle school next year. And then, yes, Monica and I have been working on the theology of the body, which I feel like is years in the making, praying and asking for the Holy Spirit's guidance. And we both came to the same publisher in different ways, which is crazy because there's so many good material out there for theology of the body. So I'll be teaching middle school, and this is, we're going to be using 3 Little Commonplace books from Ruel Woods. And I realized a parent just emailed and said, you can't see inside the books on the publisher's website. So I sent the parent like a example chapter and the glossary. So if you're wondering what is exactly in the books, you can feel free to email me and I'll send you those pictures of the actual chapter. What I love about this series, it fits really well with Scholae Academy, and just that it's very restful and very short snippets. Like theology of the body can be overwhelming to even start. At a middle school level, I feel like it's almost like learning a different language. So these are very bite-sized pieces. I think it's like 3 or 4 pages each lesson that we're just reading together in class. And then there's always sacred art, Lectio Divina, story of a saint. So yeah, it's been, I feel like, years in the making of praying about how to bring this to the middle school level. I did it at the high school level for a long time, me and my husband, for our diocese, but now I'm looking at something for middle school. So I think that covers all of it, the 3 classes that I'm offering next year. So
Thank you, Tisha. So I'm really excited now also for us to get a chance to hear from 2 new teachers that are joining us, bringing in art and music and incorporating that into our faith. So we've been really, really blessed to have our paths cross with Dr. Ross Williams and Jennifer Bradenbach. So Jennifer, I'll start with you. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about kind of your path to Scholae and what you'll be offering?
Sure, thank you. My name is Jennifer Breidenbach. I'm from New York. I have a master's degree in early childhood education and a bachelor's degree in fine art. I've taught in public schools, Catholic schools, and homeschool co-ops. And I found Scholae. We used Song School Latin in my most recent homeschool co-op. And that's why I found Scholae Academy, and I just fell in love. It seems wonderful. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to teach here. The 2 courses that I'm offering, one is the Blessed Mother in Art. It's Marian Art Through the Ages. And the other is the Common Arts for the Domestic and Liturgical Life of the Church. And both of them will be hands-on and history-based. They're each 1 hour a week. and they will both have a history component and a studio component. For the Blessed Mother in Art, we'll be following a timeline from RC history, and we'll go through the Old Testament and ancient times, New Testament to early medieval, the medieval to post-Reformation, and then American history to late modern. And we'll be looking at how the Blessed Mother is depicted during each time. And we will choose one work from each period to try and recreate and sharpen our own studio skills. And then for the Common Arts course, we will be studying different crafts that can be used in the home and also in the church, like making rope rosary beads, beeswax candles, oil lamps, sewing altar linens and vestments and how to care for them, stained glass, frescoes, architecture, and we will have a common arts notebook for both courses.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really excited about your classes, and I'm so glad you are joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Ross Williams.
Thanks,
I will
Ray.
pass it to you. Sure.
Yeah. I'm honored to be here and in good company with the Aquinas House, other instructors. You guys are teaching some wonderful classes, so I'm particularly thrilled to be in the mix here. So, and honored, very honored. So it's my first year with Scole, so just kind of getting to know how it works. But several of my kids have gone through Latin. We've done Latin for years. And one of my kids did a private tutoring. So we've done a lot of different things with Scole and Classical Academic Press over many, many years. So I'm very excited to be joining you guys and offering some music courses, which is a great thing for your curriculum for Scole and for everybody at home to be adding something that we can contribute to. So just a tiny bit about myself. Well, a week ago today, we had our 9th child. So we're pretty excited. His name, speaking of St. Thomas Becket, his name is Clement Joseph Becket Williams. And we almost named him Becket as his first name, but he's a little more mild and merciful, and that's what Clement means. And so hopefully he'll stay that way. And anyway, so we have 9 children. We have 5 boys and 3 girls. And so I finished my doctorate in music education in 2020. And prior to that, I have 2 degrees in percussion, a master's degree in percussion, and a bachelor's degree in percussion. One from my doctorate, by the way, is from Boston University. And then I went to, which was an online degree, actually. And then I went to USC at Los Angeles and the Oberlin Conservatory of Music. So lots of school over the years. And I've been playing the organ as a music director for the last 8 years on the weekends at a Catholic church here in Ohio, as well as teaching at a Catholic school. And so I'm excited to be joining you guys here in this platform. So the offerings that I have for you guys are 2 of them for next year. One of them is called, in the Aquinas House, is called Music Inside the Mass. Similar to the other course we were talking about as far as understanding the Catholic Mass. This will be the similar type of structure, but we dive deep into what happens in the music inside the Mass. And starting from the very beginning of the Mass, as far as when the bell rings and everyone stands up, the entrance antiphon is sung. And where do we get the text for that music? And where do we get the melodies? And who composed them? And how did this come to be? And we always discuss, once we get to the Second Vatican Council, things broke, and there are 4 different options now. What are those 4 different options for music, even at the very first moment of the Mass? So as you go through what takes an hour of the Mass, it's about 25 to 30 minutes of that Mass is music, solely from the choir loft. And if the priest is singing, then 45 minutes of the hour of the Mass are all music as well. So what is the music inside the Mass? And again, where do we get the text, and where do we get the music, and who composed it? And so that's a pretty fascinating class, and we're just going to dive deep into all that. So when you go to Mass, you think, I wonder what we're singing right now and why and how. You get the answers to that question. Then the other class I'm offering next year is in the Great Hall which is a music class called Classical Music, Heritage, and History. And so that one, we dive into composers going through a really broad perspective of our history of music, really starting around the beginning of Christendom, but we'll back it up to Psalms of David. Right at the beginning of Christendom, we'll talk about the great composers that affected the Western world in art and music and society, and what happened and what they did and how they were inspired. So we go through the Middle Ages, of course, into the Renaissance and the Baroque era and the classical era and the Romantic era and all the different composers. So we start right off the bat with who can name a composer in that era, and you might think, oh, Bach, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Mozart. Yeah, those will definitely study all of those. But we listen to other ones and find out stories about their lives, like the virtues and how they became who they were and what got them to be writing music. And you would be, obviously you can read a textbook and find out about the composers, but making connections between them as far as where they found God in all of the music is something that is inspired by listening. So we do a lot of listening to the music. We say, well, I hear this beautiful phrase here, and how is that connected to their faith, and where did that come from? And it usually comes from a virtue. So I'm going to give you one little example here, and everybody can sort of virtually raise your hand if you recognize this song. Right? Everybody knows what that is, right? The Four Seasons by Vivaldi. Did anybody raise their hand? The Four Seasons by Vivaldi. And okay, so everybody knows that's sort of a fun song that you might hear at a cocktail hour or a dinner party. But really what happened was Vivaldi was this priest who could not speak. So he had terrible problems with stutters. And so he couldn't even say the mass, which if you're a priest and you can't say the mass, you can't really be a priest. You have to have your hands to consecrate and your mouth to sing and to pray. So the bishop in the time gave him permission to still be a priest, but to minister to orphans at an orphanage. And he taught violin to all the orphans over the years, but he wrote all the music for them. And he wrote more music than any other composer that I know of, which is extraordinary. The amount of music that Vivaldi wrote. And he was nicknamed the Red Priest. And he could not speak to those kids, but he celebrated all of his music, all of his teaching through playing the violin and expressing the music and teaching all those kids how to play. It's just a beautiful story. So each composer has something wonderful to be shared. And then diving into the summer, we have a couple of fun, intensive things. One of them is a Gregorian chant intensive, where we sing and listen to and learn about Gregorian chant as far as how it fits in the liturgy and how where it came from and how it was written, and how it's notated. You ever wonder what those little square notations are, why they came to be? What are they called? They're called punctum. Anyway, lots of Gregorian chant for that summer class. Then the other summer class is totally on a different side, which is songwriting and poetry and creating words and making music out of them, just like any songwriter would do. And at the end of that summer course, the goal will be that each student has written a song and recorded it. And so we have some studio skills we can use and instruments. But if at home, all you need is a microphone or even the microphone on your computer. You don't even have to have musical skills. But I say you got to have a journal and a tree to sit by to think of some beautiful poetry. And we're off and running. So I'm pretty excited about those courses for Scholai.
That's great. Thank you. I know a couple people have started putting some questions in the Q&A. I want to just give a little bit more information about the Aquinas House. And then as I'm kind of giving out some other details, if you have questions about the program or questions for the different teachers here tonight, go ahead and put those in the Q&A or the chat box, and then we'll make sure we get to them. One of the things I think it's important to share with you is because the Aquinas House is so new, there are many areas that we want to continue to grow into. One of those is seeking a spiritual director, spiritual father for the house. So we've talked to just couple different priests over the last year and a half. We've also had the different names of deacons come to us. So in your own parish, if you have recommendations or within your diocese, we want you to email that information to us. We enjoy meeting priests and deacons who are obviously around North America, and just sharing our mission and vision with them. And we do want to have that spiritual director as a part of our team. If they are interested in teaching, that's great. I know for priests, they're always very, very busy in their parish and they have many demands on them. So we're not asking them to teach a course, although if they wanted to, then absolutely. But we really just seek kind of their guidance and of course their leadership in terms of being a spiritual father for our house and for the families who join us. So that's a need that we have. In addition to always bringing on more teachers, Monica kind of hinted at that when we have great course ideas and great curriculum that we want to use, but we have 4 of our 5 teachers here tonight, and we know that one person can only do so much. So the teachers we have here have great ideas and they're going to bring that to you. But we're also going to want to continue to add to our house based upon needs, recommendations that we receive from parents. But also too, I've had conversations with our current instructors and they have great course ideas, but they also say, I won't be able to teach it. So if you found someone, this would be another great course to do. So it's a definite true labor of love, and it is collaborative. And so really the best way to help us grow our Aquinas House is by word of mouth, and by talking about your experience that you'll have with us, whether it's joining something in the summer or during this upcoming year. And if you're on our website, the landing page that is, we do have a section that gives you information just about kind of ways that we seek support and then who you can email. Chris Hall is another one of our instructors. He obviously is unable to be with us tonight, but he's terrific. He's been teaching classes for us in the Great Hall. You might have had classes with him in science and the common arts. And he's going to be doing our science and the Catholic Church courses with us. So we're really excited about those classes. He's offering them in our upper school here, so science and the Catholic Church. But we also ask for contributors and volunteers. And so you'll see there, whether you're a homeschooling parent, a priest, a sister, a deacon, a lay person in the church, we have had off and on kind of these planning meetings over the last 2 years. And they're really just brainstorming sessions where, we talk about essentially the things we're talking about tonight. How can we grow and expand our house? What are the needs of our parishes, and what are the needs of our Catholic families, and how can we partner better with them? What are they seeking to, and I put myself into that group as well. When we think of what are the needs of our children as we're trying to raise them to be faithful, bold Catholics, what do we need as parents to do that? I briefly mentioned an adult workshop. Monica Meinhardt has started one. And so I think we'll continue to develop that in order to support you as parents. So we don't want to forget that when we're talking about the domestic church, it isn't just the education of our children, but it's the education of the home and our family. So with that, as I said, you've got our landing page there that you can tour in more detail, and you can always follow up and email us with questions. You can email any of the instructors here tonight directly, and you can continue conversations about their specific courses. I'm going to turn now to some of our questions. So the first one here is for you, Monica. What are the ages for the summer class Forming Friendships?
Yeah, so the official ages listed is 6 through 9th. I would say I actually revised that to 5th through 9th. But I would say also there's always flexibility. So especially with certain classes, you know where your child is best. And kind of a fun feature of these school A classes is that you often really can't tell the age of your peers physically, if that makes sense. And so it kind of, it's not, if somebody's really short and somebody's really tall, you don't really notice, which is helpful. But where we are spiritually and where we are just all academically, intellectually, there's a lot of variability there. And I think this topic for the summer class, especially, and what Tisha mentioned last year, there's a little bit of a variety of ages. And so it's always case by case based on your child. So I would say 5th through 9th, but a little bit of wiggle room there too.
Yeah, and one of the things that I didn't yet mention tonight, and maybe Christy, you could put a link here to our student parent handbook, but our house classes are no different than our Great Hall classes or the School A Academy classes. We have a student parent handbook. And so in that handbook, we provide specifics on how to look at course selection. So what Monica's mentioning is, there's a target grade range, and you might have an older student who's outside of it, or an advanced younger student who's just under it. And if you're reading the course description, looking at the prereqs, and you believe this is a good fit for your student, you can make that purchase. And then depending upon what the class is, instructors can do placement assessments, or you can just email the instructor before making the seat purchase and just introduce yourself and your student and just say, here's what I'm thinking. This is a little bit about my student. Would this be a good course for him or her? And so we really, again, see the parents as the primary educators. And so we try to provide as much as possible online to help you make that decision. And obviously, because we work with homeschooling families, we recognize that courses are not just, or I should say the child can't just be put into a course based upon, oh, they're 6th grade or they're 10th grade or what have you. We look at skills, capacities, and social emotional maturity, those pieces. And then if you have students with learning differences, or if you have any challenges with regards to perhaps online learning or a classroom environment, that's also a good time to reach out to an instructor and share those things, so that most often we're able to provide workarounds for students. And like I said, we have our tutoring center and center for students with learning differences that can support your child. But we typically in most cases are able to provide a really good classroom experience, just because you've had those conversations and the teacher gets to know the student ahead of time, and based upon parents providing us with just some information about their student, it helps the teacher identify what hurdles there might be in the class, or how the class could be a good fit for them. So take a look at that student parent handbook. Thank you, Christy, for putting that link there, and then the other links as well. Keeping in line with the handbook, there's a question there about payment plans. So we do have payment or a payment plan, and it's with Shop Pay. So this current school term, we've been using Affirm. Shop Pay is actually with Affirm. It's just kind of the front end name that Shopify, which is our store, uses. So yes, we do have a payment plan, but it's a third party. So School A Academy does not manage payment plans. So you do have options there, and that's also talked about in our handbook, and you can find out more information there. But if you want to talk about a specific situation that you might have, go ahead and email us at support@schoolAacademy.com, and then we can obviously understand more and go from there. Will there be plans to add more male teachers? I appreciate the female teachers tremendously, but would love to have male teachers for my sons. Yes, several of us here are mothers of sons, myself included. So yes, we appreciate that question, and we know, where that's coming from. We recruit teachers, and depending upon kind of their level of expertise and, their interest, we always select the best candidate. So I think it's probably a common experience that we've all had when we look at teachers in education. It is or can be a female dominated, especially in the lower to middle school. But we're grateful for Dr. Ross Williams and Chris Hall. These are fabulous men that are in our houses of studies, and Great Hall, and they'll be with us also for summer. So on that note, if parents, if you have teacher recommendations, friends, colleagues that you also work with, or you have your children in local co-ops and or even local schools, and you'd like to share what we're doing here at the Aquinas House with potential candidates, we welcome that as well, and you can direct them to our way. So absolutely, we'd love to continue to hire the best teachers, male and female. Yes, we do have a specific link to send teachers. And so 2 places, I would send them to the landing page for Aquinas House, where they can read about the mission and vision. And then I would also send them, and we'll put this in the chat box, we have an employment page that details what the request for proposal is. So things like making a pitch, the candidate puts in what they would like to teach, whether it's a course that's already established or a new idea. That's how the conversation started with Dr. Ross. He had great ideas for courses, and he and I kind of talked at different points over a year or so. And then here we are today. So we definitely look for candidates who have new ideas of classes they want to teach. Jennifer was very much like that. I mean, we did not have any art courses, like we didn't have any music courses in our Catholic house. So we do want to find instructors who are creative, independent, and also have that entrepreneurial spirit to try something new, and to kind of see if there's an audience there for it. So the employment page and then also the landing page for Aquinas House would be 2 important places to send potential candidates to. And then they can also email support@Scholae Academy with any other specific hiring questions that they might have. I think we've gone through our questions in the Q&A. Oh, what are the grades for art classes? Jennifer, do you want to talk about the grades for art?
Yes, they're geared for 7 to 9, but there is plenty of room in there. It can be adjusted based on the needs of your student and if you think that they're a good fit.
Yeah, so you'll see once our website is back to working as it should, the specifics for each of those classes. When you click on them, you'll have that target grade range. In our handbook, we also list the kind of minimum and maximum enrollment age for lower school, middle school, and upper school. So that'll be important to look at as well. And that is also another kind of future goal piece there, is looking to grow our course offerings for kind of that grade 3 to grade 6 group. And so if you have ideas or teacher recommendations, you can also share that with us. Are there specific plans to expand, or are you planning to grow organically? Do you have classes in mind already that you want to offer? Are you leaving that open to teachers' pitches? So great question. My answer is yes and no. And here's what I mean by that. So when Dr. Perrin started the ecumenical mission with Scholae Academy, in terms of knowing that we were always going to have these 3 houses, we do see the houses with a very specific mission, which is we have these 3 Christian traditions. And specifically when it comes to Aquinas, we're talking about how do we grow in our faith, in our personal relationship with Christ, through the study of literature, or through the study of music, or through the study of art, or church history, or science. And so all of our courses that we're currently offering in the Aquinas House and that we want to offer in the future will or should meet that expectation. So categories, if you will, of classes being in theology, catechism, art, music, and within music, I would say, poetry, not just kind of the, I guess what I think of the traditional definition or conventional definition maybe of kind of a person who doesn't have a musical background, but I've kind of had a brief conversation with Dr. Ross about that idea of the study of music. So I probably should pass that question to you in terms of what we mean when we're talking about the study of music and deepening our faith.
Well, yeah, as far as how it fits into the classical school and the model of learning about music as an art form itself, that doesn't mean that we're teaching you how to play an instrument as far as the technicality goes. Although that is something that most musicians do to gain more appreciation for music, or even to be able to be in performance. But music in the case here is looking at it from a perspective of where we can find the connections and all the other aspects of the classical school, as far as rhetoric and reading and writing and math and science, and how those are all really connected together. And so we look for the goodness and the beauty of the music and how that's lived out through the study of those connections in other music, especially in science and numbers and music theory. And so there's a huge aspect toward how music plays out in the mind of someone who can find the goodness, truth, and beauty in the world and share that with others. And so, yeah, does that answer what you mean?
Yeah, it does. So much better than I would say it. So thank you. And then another area that's also important to Dr. Perrin would be common arts. And I know we've been talking about fine arts as well. But so that's a piece there as well that is brand new, and we want to continue to offer that. And that's where Jennifer is or has written and submitted just wonderful proposals. And so the classes that we have running right now in terms of those areas, we do want to continue in those same veins and develop further. The instructors that we have here tonight, having them look at kind of the courses that they're offering now, and then what would be next, whether it's offering them in cycles, what classes to add, and then new candidates that are coming to us. Monica and I had this conversation about theology courses this year, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but Monica, this year, so much of your work has been focusing on like theology in literature or spiritual writings. And so it's theology in that sense, but there is kind of the more, we talked about, sacrament, a class on sacraments, or the course you're doing on Mass, studying theology by understanding the Mass. So there are those categories that we want to make sure that our classes are offered. So it isn't just who's coming in and what do they want to teach, but within our categories, then we look to these candidates or our current instructors and say, okay, what other courses do you want to teach? So one of the pieces that we're working on is a suggested curriculum map similar to what we have in the Great Hall. Now the Great Hall, which is what we mean when we say School A Academy, the Great Hall has been running since 2014. So the suggested curriculum map showcases a lot of our courses that we do have. In this case, when we have our map ready for the Aquinas House, it's going to be kind of our dream board, if you will, in terms of the areas that we want to continue to grow into. So we will continue to work on that and then make that available. Since we can't access the website at the moment, does Mrs. Frost happen to know what days and times for the modern church? Yes. Did I put you on the spot?
I hope I can remember, because I was trying to pull it up myself on the it's Tuesday, Thursday. Hold on, I'm always do it in Central Time, but I need to do it in Eastern Time. 11 o'clock is going to be medieval world. So then hold on. I'm so sorry. My brain.
No, it's okay.
Right? The bell schedule. Okay, so 11 o'clock would be 10
And then
o'clock. 12:30,
yeah,
would that be right?
12:30.
Okay, so 12:30 is Modern Worlds on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Eastern Time.
Yes,
right?
our bell schedule runs on Eastern Time. So wherever you are, if you're not Eastern, you've got to make sure that you kind of adjust your time.
Yes.
Yep, tonight's event is recorded. So we'll make it available to you. If you've registered, you'll get a recording, and then it'll also live on our events page.
Joanne, can I add about the curriculum, like that question about growing organically or having classes in mind? One thing I will say is I know, I guess I can speak for myself, but I know for all the other instructors too, we have so many ideas and we've received so many ideas and we have so many plans for where we want certain classes to go in different categories. Just like kind of Tisha's class last year, she did the first part of history, and now this year she's offering the second part. So you can kind of see where that's going, hopefully, right? And then same with theology of the body, the same idea, middle school, upper school this year, and then down the line, another upper school class for the 11th and 12th graders as they move. And so we definitely have a plan. But there also is, like Joanne's mentioning, kind of a limit to how much each one of us can do. That's why we are talking about, hoping to find new instructors to help us grow and to just have that conversation. And so that conversation piece would be kind of the organic factor. So if we have this idea in mind of like theology and literature, where I taught a St. Therese class this year, I could envision that continuing in a nice sequence with more reading of great spiritual classics. And so there might be a teacher who comes and is a good fit and just so happens to be, a scholar on Augustine. So then that would fit into that next piece of that puzzle and so on. And so even though, in a dream world, I'm teaching all these classes because I can see the outline, I can see the plan, and I would imagine all of you other instructors feel the same way, but we all have large families and are living our Catholic faith in that way too. Some of us are homeschooling. And so, our plates, we have to have that balance, but we do have that plan. But then if say, organically, say if a teacher comes along and says, well, I'm not an expert in Augustine, but I love St. Francis de Sales. And so, that's the organic factor there. Oh, okay, let's talk about that. So, yeah, I think is that right, Joanne? Kind of that balance of both. Yeah.
And also too, over the last couple of years, the emails that parents have sent to say, I'd love it if you have this course, or have you thought about using this resource? We do receive those, we hear those, we bring those into meetings. I share them with instructors. So we really welcome that parent feedback. So don't ever think like if you have a great idea on a Tuesday afternoon, like not to email it to us. Do email it to us, because we receive that and we do take that into consideration, because again, the mission and vision of the house is to really, just as it is at large with School A Academy, to partner with our families. We know that you guys have lots of choices. You also, especially, I mean, just speaking for myself and my family, inviting someone into my home, or bringing my children to a parish for a class, that takes I think a unique space, right? So we always want to make sure that we provide quality to our children. And so the suggestions that you give us, we don't take that lightly, because we recognize that parents are primary educators, and it's an honor when you all make those choices to invite other adults into that circle. Our instructors are formators. They're not just kind of bringing content to your kids, and we don't take that mission any other way. It's humbling and it's beautiful, and we're grateful that God has given us that work. So we do want to hear what you all want, in addition to continuing to grow based upon the mission and vision that we have here at School A Academy. So hopefully that kind of speaks to those needs there. Any other questions? I know we're about a minute left tonight. I'm going to ask our instructors if they have anything that they want to mention or bring, or even a question to pose for parents. And then kind of as they're doing that, if anyone else has any other questions, we'll make sure to get to them.
I was just going to add, and I forgot to say this, I'm really looking forward to, I like the history classes because that's kind of my love and my skill set. But like Monica said, I'm really excited about some of these once a week classes that feel more I don't know what I want to say, discipleship or prayerful. Like that's like my hope for this theology of the body course or some of these other classes. Not that they're not going to be academic, but I'm excited for kind of that restful once a week theology of the body course, at least for me, to have kind of a different pace. So I love hearing all the offerings. I'm so excited. I'm like, can I take some of these classes myself? But I think I'm too old. But I love the variety and hearing everybody's classes. That's exciting. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Tisha.
I will add the Understanding the Catholic Mass class was born out of a parent's suggestion. So in thinking of theology, I was just open to any, we could have done a class on sacraments this next year, but this was a specific suggestion. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. You know, the people who ask and you shall receive, right? So that's what happened. I said, okay, this is what parents want, then we'll start with that and then move from there. But could you hear my washing machine? There was some music back. But a lot of great ideas too come from interactions with students as well. I'll add that too. So I'm teaching another summer course on Frankenstein. Totally, it's actually completely related to our faith. And we're going to be reading the Genesis creation account multiple times alongside Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But this class idea was born out of a private tutoring session with a Catholic student who was reluctant to read. And so we were trying to find a book that he might enjoy. And we landed on Frankenstein, which is a favorite of mine. And so we've been picking it apart together this whole year. And I was like, okay, well, I've got to offer a summer class on that too. So, you know, inspired by a Catholic student, not in a Catholic class, but yeah, a lot of that growth happens in those small interactions too, which I love.
I just was going to add, I think the thing that excites me most about what we have for 23-24 is that we're bringing in beauty into the house, and obviously doing that with music and art. And I know this is something I've seen it in parent comments. We've talked about it just as teachers in different house meetings, but how do we keep the faith alive and keep our children attracted to the church and the faith and ultimately that personal relationship with God. And it's hard, Monica, that opening student example that you talked about, the virtues and the vices, it's all of those vices that pull all of us at many different times. And so I'm just really excited to share the beauty of our faith with our children through the courses. And it's integrated across all things. I mean, we have obviously with Jennifer and Dr. Ross classes that are very focused on arts, but listening to things that Tisha has said tonight, just in terms of history and what's integrated there. And then Monica looking at the different assessments and ways that you ask the students to show their learning, to see that they're drawing. And I know they've been writing poetry and stories that came from our recent feast day, where we put together a inaugural house publication. So there are a lot of ways in which I see the Holy Spirit at work. And it's really exciting because we're online and we're not in person, but we're still able to kind of do all of that through these means. So it's obviously God's work, and we're just here working with him. But all that to say, I'm just grateful and thank you to each of you that are here tonight and working hard, planning, preparing, doing so many things to bring these great courses to our families. So parents, any other final questions before we say goodnight? We would not be here if you did not need us. So we are most grateful that you are considering School A Academy and specifically considering the Aquinas House. Hopefully tonight you learned more about our teachers and our offerings, ways that you can reach out to us to ask for assistance, to provide us with feedback and new course ideas. And then of course the ways that you can share the mission and vision of Aquinas by directing people to our website or families to our website as well. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good evening, and you know where to find us if you need us. So have a good night, everybody.